Greetings, kind folk. Welcome back to another episode of this Code Along series. I'd just like to start by saying thank you to everyone interacting with my videos. I do hope you enjoy them, and also hope you get to learn something, even if it's quite minuscule or very small. Right, I keep learning something every day, and I hope I can teach, because that is something I enjoy to do. Right, I didn't even work on objectives for this episode because I'll be quite honest, it is focused on debugging still, and if you can remember from episode 20, we were struggling to get our QB target to work. So we kept getting this issue where the table index is null, and I'd like to show you what I've done. I have been through quite the ordeal, right? So what's happening is, as you can see in our add target bone, for example, it obviously has its bones, which is a little table, and then there's another table containing the options and the distance being a number and options being its own little table, and within each little table there's a bunch of options, right? So number, which just means it's the number of the options, so option number 1. The type is just its client event that it'll trigger, and we give it the icon and the label with can interact logic. Okay, that worked fine. Same with add target entity. Those were perfectly fine. They did their thing, worked exactly as they should have. Right. Then what I wanted to do is fix the problem, obviously, but I ended up going to QB target's client Lua so we can look through the code, and I found the function which gets triggered by the export, taking in models and parameters, right? Then what this does is it gets a local distance and options, right? The distance is parameters.distance, so parameters is basically this little table that it takes in, right? So that is the parameters. So parameters dot distance, as you can see here, would be equal to our config I distance. That's what's happening with the distance, right? Then it says parameters.distance or config.maxDistance. So if this has not been defined, it sets it to the config's max distance, the QB target config's max distance. Now with our parameters, the options would be parameters.options. So it is theoretically pulling this data over here. So these options would be equal to this little table affair, right? Then it says if type models, basically what type does is it returns the data type of the variable that you feed it, and obviously bones, which is a little table, right? So they're asking that is the models that we feed at target model, and it goes like, okay, in bones, for example, it isn't technically models, but just bear with me, it takes in a table, so the table is models. So then it says if models is a table, then we execute this logic, otherwise we just execute this logic, because if it's not a table, then it surely has to be a string. But they do end up checking it anyway, and we're like, okay, well, if models is only a string, meaning there's only one entry in it, then models becomes Joat models, and I figured out what Joat does. I'll get to that. Right. Then once the model has been set, this models is a global, I'm saying global, but it is not global, it is a table that is contained within the client.lua of QB target. Then it says if that particular model isn't within the table, then we put it in the table, and all of the data connected to it is just null because we didn't give it any. Then they call a function being like set options of the model, distance, and options, right? And the issue has always been with this set options function, right? As you can see here, it tells us there's a script error in QB target, and it is in client Lua 524. If we look over here, 524, this is where the error occurs. Okay, but it is caused by set options, right? Referencing the client Lua in QB target at line 648. And if you can recall, that is where we have the add target model function that gets triggered by our export in the fuel trailers client main at 878. Right. Now what it said is the table index is null in 524. If we go to this set options thing in 524, it's having trouble because this index is null, right? Which means that this is an invalid statement, therefore it can't run. Now let's just kind of look through it, right? Set options takes in a little table, it takes in a distance and options. Now I want to quickly go back to our add target model and just copy this so that we can go back to this and just paste it there, so we can just reference exactly what it is we're taking in. If we recall, the options is a table, distance is a value, and this little table is our models table. It's a very big table. Now for every value, right, in pairs of options, right, we do a certain thing. If v, so what's happening is it takes the first value out of options and assigns it to v. So it'll take this little table and say v is equal to this table. Then it checks if v dot required item. What that does is it just checks whether or not it exists. Then obviously we don't have a item here, so it automatically does not exist. So this little bit of logic won't execute unless we actually put an item in it. Okay, then if not v.distance or v.distance is larger than distance, being the distance that it takes in, then we just set the distance, well, we set v.distance equal to distance, right? One thing to note, they never tell us in QB target that we can take in distance as an option, right? Draw distance maybe, yeah, there's no distance within that, so I never knew, but you can actually declare a distance for a specific option as well, and that's just me logically what's the word called, assuming that might be the case, because if it takes in this little table and you put a distance in it, then surely it should assign the distance. So it checks if v.distance is not if it is not declared, or it is larger than the distance that you gave it, in this variable over here, then it just sets v.distance to that. And then what happens? Tables, what? The v.label index becomes v. It might be a bit confusing, but it is actually quite simple, right? We have this massive table, and the table's index name becomes our label, right? Which we declare over here. And the data assigned to it becomes v, which is what? Which is this little table. So if we go back to this over here, remember this happened. So models and model becomes what? An empty little table. Yeah? So only thing that happens, that empty little table becomes v, which is just that little table. And that is literally what this set option does. So this v.label was null, says QB target. Now here's the thing, right? If we go to config.i.label in our config, right, we have config.i.return label. This is clearly a string, right? But I don't think it picked it up for some reason. So I'm assuming a solution could be to change the quotation marks, and that might probably be the best solution because it is supposed to be a string. However, the solution that ended up working is calling this toString function and just forcing that to be a string. And once I did that, it literally solved the problem and it was able to start perfectly. Then the only issue came in when I tested the interact with the take nozzle. The take nozzle causes that. So crazy that was the issue. I can't believe it. I was looking for the problem probably like 28 to an hour, 28 minutes to an hour. It's mad, right? Yeah, I didn't forget with the jwt function. Now in our config we have our models defined, but these are technically strings. Well, not according to QB target, but we could just make double quotation marks. I just prefer the single quotes because, you know, it's just easier for me to use them, because, you know, it's just a single click. It's not shift button click, you know. But anyway, whenever we're working with models, and again back to the jwt function, we need hash keys of the models to actually spawn them and interact with them using functions. So what jwt does is it basically takes the string and gets the hash key of that particular model. There are natives to do that too. If we look at the natives, get hash, so get hash key is basically the same as jwt. I believe jwt is just a bit quicker than get hash key. It's not as resource intensive, and that's why people use the jwt function. Alternatively, we could skip having to do all that, and instead of single quotation marks, we have these back quotes, and these back quotes automatically return the hash of that model name. So that is also an option, right? The only reason I don't do that is I can't remember if we need the string version of the model in my script, but if we don't, it's quite logical, to do that. So awesome sauce. So that toString function is literally the only thing we needed to sort the entire problem out. My lord. Anyway, now back to the issue at hand. That was such a big explanation. Right, tech nozzle, let's just create the error. 649. Okay. Right, load anim dict of that particular animation. Now, okay. That makes sense. Right, I have written a load animation dictionary function before in my fishing script over here. Here we go, load anim dict. We'll just copy those. Go to my fuel trailer. Right at the top of my functions below notify. We'll add them and we'll capitalize load and unload. So that'll be the third entry. This is the first entry of it. Okay. Perfect. That should sort it out, I'm pretty sure. Right, let me just go to the resource. Fair point, I never showed this, but if you want this resource monitor, F8 in your F8 menu, you go to Tools, Performance, Resource Monitor, checking it shows it, unchecking it hides it. Super simple, and it is resizable. I just like it, the one-liners, so that I can focus on one particular script. And I need to find my script. Hello, INFT, there we go. Cool. It didn't load. There we go. That is bloody awesome, don't you think? Now let us test something else. We are outlining the fuel nozzle, which I don't think is what we wanted to do. Right, let's just go to this one. I'm really happy because I'm so glad it worked. Set entity, draw outline, if nozzle. Can't we draw the outline of the pipe? If we do that and that, can't we draw the outline of the pipe? Maybe, maybe not. But before we restart the script, return nozzle. Why did that not work? Load anim dict, that's perfectly fine. Grabbing nozzle, pipe properties, grabbed station, nozzle. Okay, so a lot of debug information. Return. Okay, let's see. F nozzle, the object's been created. Right. Delete object if we are too far away. Delete object. Now, if we go to return, it is delete object, not delete entity. Okay. This is gonna suck because we won't be able to delete the prop. But yeah, let's just do that. Maybe that works. Okay, yeah, I thought so. We are stuck with a prop on our hands. I thought so. I thought it was gonna happen. Let's see. Didn't I register a command to deal with that? Yeah. Again. It's just no. Oh no. How can you fix that? Let's see what we can do. Right, get closest object of type. Okay. Model hash. I don't want to exit and return. Maybe I just should. Yeah, let's quit. And then just reopen FiveM. Okay. I was thinking maybe I could get the closest object and then delete it. Actually, it does return the object, so it's not impossible to do. So that might be clever. That might actually be baller. Local redval, just do nos prop, and then we clear or delete that object. So get closest object of type 2. That'll probably be the player ped's location. So local player location is get entity coords of player ped ID. So that'll get the player's coordinates and player location.x, .y and .z. Radius, it'll be very small, so 0.5. Model hash, it would be good, and this is where we'll use the back quotes. Let's just pin this. And prop fuel nozzle, there we go. Didn't even need to pin it. Right, we're gonna get the hash key of the fuel nozzle. Is mission? I'm not sure. Let's just make it 0 for false. So we just get the closest object of that type, nosprop, and we delete it. Boom. Super simple. That should in fact work. I'm pretty confident. And that is really clever, so even if it glitches out, it'll get the closest prop. So even if what happened to us exactly just now, that would solve it. I am 99% certain. Yeah. Okay. Now we're just waiting for the server to open up. We load in, test it real quick, just grab it, return it. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, we'll sort it out. I'm sorry, this episode made me so glad because the issue we had earlier was so annoying. So take nozzle, and no, outlining does not work on the cable or pipe, but return nozzle, that did in fact not work. I wonder why. Let's see what happens if we walk far enough away. Oh my god. I forgot. I forgot that we create an explosion. My lord. Okay, well that does delete the entity. Take nozzle. So why does it not do that when we return it? Return nozzle? I wonder. But we could do our clear nos command. Clear nos. It works. Fantastic. However, we are still left with the rope and we can't return the nozzle because we deleted the prop. But whether or not the prop exists, that's not the problem. It's the return nozzle that doesn't work. Return trailer. Return trailer nozzle. If not well, we need to return station nozzle, my bad. If not SNOS taken and holding nozzle. So we're checking two things. We have to hold the nozzle and the station nozzle has to be taken for us to do these things. And pipe and if nozzle should be script global or client side global. Yeah. Okay. Right. Grab station nozzle. Right, if we've taken either the nozzles and holding a nozzle, we return. Holding nozzle becomes true, then we create a thread. While we are holding the nozzle, do these things. Then, what we have to do, if the distance becomes too far, exactly, holding nozzle becomes false, and SNOS taken must also become false, right? Because we are no longer holding the station nozzle. I mean, it makes sense to me, but we might be able to use that to prevent them from taking the nozzle again. Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's just keep doing it that way. We can work that logic in another way. Right. So that settles that. I think our return nozzle's logic might be the issue, because we've got grab, no, not trailer, but stations. Right, grab and return if we are not in a vehicle and we are holding a nozzle. What? Yeah, that's the problem. And not holding a nozzle. What? No. If we are not in a vehicle and we are holding a nozzle, then we can return it. Otherwise we can't. That makes no sense. So SNOS taken. If we've taken a station nozzle and we are holding a nozzle, then we can return it. I love how the videos always go beyond 25 minutes, even though I try my best not to. Right, so that does that. And we need to return it. Please give me an option. Okay, so obviously our logic somewhere is faulty because it's not giving us an option. right, as you can see, which is clearly due to this can interact function. So either of these are currently false and it can't return the true value. So either SNOS taken is not true or holding nozzle is not true. So here, if our distance becomes larger, then we are not holding the nozzle and the taken nozzle becomes false. That's perfectly fine. Grabbing a station nozzle, if we have taken it or holding one, then we can't. Otherwise we take one. And I think this is where it's supposed to be set. True, Bray. True. True. And then we'll just restart it. And I was supposed to delete that, but it doesn't matter because we have our own little... Ooh, that doesn't work. T, open chat. Hello, slash CLERNOZ. Alright, obviously that is a problem. Doesn't matter, we just grab a nozzle and we head back to it. Return nozzle. It did delete the pipe, which means that it should have deleted the nozzle. However, for some reason it doesn't want to delete the prop, and that does happen. Don't know why, but it does. Cool, we'll end the episode there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little struggle of ours. But yeah, if you need any support, the Discord is linked below, imagiNix Studios. You're welcome to follow any one of the YouTube support forum posts and ask questions in there. I'll do my best to answer as soon as I can. But yeah, have a fantastic day and I'll catch you in the next episode.